whole week, try to think about one thing that was spectacular that you want to hold on to in your heart. And then, let's let the rest of it go. We're going to begin on page 627. Is that right? With Shalom Aleichem. And Harvey and Paul Staley, why don't you get us started? Let's welcome in the angels of Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Boachem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Barchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Tzreitechem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
That's one of those melodies that we say is from Sinai, Mi Sinai, because it feels like it goes way back. I'm sure if Cantor was here, she would tell us, no, it's only about 89 years old. But I love that melody because it reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother was not a shul goer, but near the end of her life, she always remembered Shalom Aleichem. Especially she had a lot of dementia, and she was at a facility called Martin's Run, which is sort of like Canterbury Woods, but in Philadelphia, for the Jewish community. And I would always try to find songs to sing to her, and she always knew Shalom Aleichem, and I was always surprised. She knew it, because it was from Sinai, right? I'd like to invite Bruce Corris over here to offer our welcome. Almost said announcement today.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
Nice
shalom.
to see such a nice crowd on this cold night. It's cold, big deal. It's cold out there. This is Buffalo. This is who we are, A little snow, a little cold. As I mentioned last week, we've got the right formula now for how to be in person. COVID numbers are here. Snowfall down here, temperature up here. Even if the temperature is just a little above it, we're still gonna do it. And in fact, I'm very pleased to say this week we took another step forward. This week we've decided that from now on, we're looking at it as we are in person until further notice, unless something comes up. So instead of looking at it each week and saying, here are the numbers and yada yada, we're just gonna kind of keep an eye on things, and if we think there's a weather issue, that's probably the most likely scenario. But for the most part, if you're planning to come to Friday night services, unless you hear otherwise, plan on it being in person. And I think that's a nice step forward at this point. Reservations obviously are still required. We need to keep track of how many people are coming for a lot of reasons. But you know what? Let's savor the fact that we can take a step forward, and we're still going to assess it. But at least now it's a little more, hey, we can move forward again. And we're always grateful that we can. Always, of course, thinking of your safety. I will be back a little bit later with the announcements. We've got a lot of stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. So good things happening. Shabbat Shalom.
Bruce, before you sit down, since you're up already, if you could light our candles. And candle lighting is officially on page 120. Harvey Horowitz will be leading the Hebrew.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And we lift up our Kiddush cup, page 123.
One of these weeks.
And then you're gonna dump it and
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim Vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. Hey, you got me there. May the lights of our candles and the warmth of the whatever's in our cup warm us and keep the glow shining on this frigid February day, and may we find the warmth of one another to be present together wherever you are, if you're joining us from afar, even if you're in Florida. I hope the candles here can light your way. And we are grateful, by the way, for anyone who is joining us virtually. Consider yourself part of our group here. We're going to turn to page 124 on the bottom. And by the way, we're using Mishkan Tefillah. The link is available on our website as well. At the bottom, may the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. And the person who wrote that actually was the rabbi, I think, at Ashira Synagogue growing up. So we have a connection to that. We are going to be continuing by welcoming in the Shabbat bride, page 138. This is our opportunity to imagine that there is a wedding or a very happy occasion occurring every Shabbat. We're going to sing the first verse and the last verse. On the last verse, we rise, we face our doorway over here, we bow to Shabbat as it enters, and we welcome one another with our kingly and queenly waves.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing for our call of community, page 146, with the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We turn on page 150, thinking about our love of God and God's love for us with Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Page 152, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated. We turn to the V'ahavta, page 154.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
So we're in this most important section, which is about a relationship with God. And it centers on these two prayers about love. We have Avat Olam that we just did, and the V'ahavta. And in between it, there is the way that we say, I love you, which is Shema Yisrael. That the Shema is really the way we tell God that we love God. And in your leaflet, I mentioned in my thought there something I just learned this past week. There's a Dr. Gary Chapman who in the early 90s, he wrote about the 5 languages of love. It's really interesting when you think about it, because I always wondered, here, when we're telling God that we love God, it's always about what we're either doing for God or that we're learning. You know, there's certain things that we don't, it's not very mushy. It's a different kind of love. And I think Dr. Chapman really helped to clarify. He said that there are 5 different ways that we show love. Words of affirmation, and I think we definitely had some words of affirmation. That's the Shema, that right there. Physical touch, I don't know, can you feel God? Are you feeling God? Maybe we have a little physical touch here with God. Receiving gifts, and for us, the greatest gift is right over there. That's the Jewish gift, which is the Torah. So that's included. Quality time, I would say that's coming to services. We're spending quality time with God. And acts of service, that's being nice to each other, opening the door, sitting here, participating in community. So I'd actually say that we have quite a lot of the different languages, even if it's skewed more towards active service. That's probably the primary one. But it's helpful in thinking about that, even if it's not particularly mushy, our love with God. The Shema is probably the closest we get to that. There is that sense. And we say that because we're about to do something momentous, which is crossing the sea. When we go across the sea, that takes an act of faith and bravery. So let's turn to Micha Mocha, understanding that we can't do those kind of activities without feeling love around us, without that support that we have of one another. 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושי פלא, נורא תהילות עושי פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, פולקי הים, לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו. אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
We rise, page 164, for the tefillah or amidah as we directly approach God.
Adonai sefatai titach
Ufi agitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'lehavatenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Vanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'yava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umakin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Yezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mekachel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somek Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michal Mochav Al Gevurot, Umido Mehelach, Melech Mimiut Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'shimcha Kadosh, HaKadoshim B'chol Yom Yalucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue quietly through 180. You may be seated whenever you're ready.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
We're going to turn now to our prayers for healing, page 371. And we do have quite a lot of people that we're thinking about in our community. As a community, we are remembering Sean Behrens, Steve Bernstein, Ebony Burse, Angie Byers, Christopher Crawford, Dee Denzel, Arthur Dezelke, Sue Frank, Nancy Hersbron, Paula Jones, Tracy Kasman, Gail Kleberg, Mark Nightinger, Leslie Kramer, Manny Quaitchen, Gail Lewis, Larry Max, Jean McGarry, Barbara McGovern, Helene Mesh, Jennifer Milich, Jill Shire Monahan, Ida Neveler, Carol Olashansky, Barbara Organic, Cheryl Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Ron Sellers, Don Sherman, Mimi Shapiro, David Shevat, Christopher Smith, Paul Staley, Lorenzo Stewart, Athena Tucker Pasiak, Jean Taransky, Anita Wiesel, Dr. Peter Winkelstein, Mark Yablin, Elizabeth Jeezy Yeager, Christine Zalowiski, Jean Zika, Gula Nava ben Bat Moshe, Chana Ezra ben Shmuel, Panina Sarah ben Bat Chana, Rabbi Dror Settle, and Rachel Shoshana. And I suspect we can probably take Gail off our list. We'll do that. If you have other names, just raise your hand. And if you're joining us virtually, if you want to write in a name or just hold it into your heart, and we'll sing together the Misha Berach, page 370, sorry.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
A complete healing of body and soul. May our prayers go out to whoever needs, those in our room right now or among us, and those in our lives that are really in need. May our prayers ease their and offer them comfort in their difficult time. So one of the things that I love about synagogue life, and it's a very rare thing, and it's not something to be discounted at all. It's something that we should treasure. We should probably talk about it more than we do. Synagogues are a place where friendships are built. There's so few venues that you can find friends, especially as you get older. When you're in school, you find some people. How many of you have friends all the way back to grade school? Yeah, I know some of you maintain good friendships all the way back then. And that's really incredible. I'm always amazed to see lifelong friends, sometimes 70, 80 years. So it's really quite incredible, especially here in Buffalo, because people live a long time here, but they also live in the same place, which is very unusual in other places in this country. But once you become an adult, you have your work environment, but work is always a little bit awkward. When you're in a work environment, you don't really want to fully necessarily be friends with someone, because if you're in a fight, it's a real problem and you're going to have to work together. So you need a place where you can convene, where you have people around you that you trust, and that when a new person comes, they can actually be incorporated and you can find friendship. And it's a real gift. That's why you need communities like ours. To be able to provide that, because we always could use more friends, I think, and we could always use an opportunity to have the safety, because to become friends with someone takes a lot of risk, especially as you get older, I think, because it's not just the love affair, love at first sight as friends. That's wonderful. When that happens, we've gone on some Israel trips together, and afterwards, it's just amazing, the friendships that come from that. But the more you give your heart, the more of an opportunity you have to have your heart broken. And with friendships, often you come to a point where you feel like you're completely aligned, and then suddenly you're not. And you're in that position where the friendship, whether it's been a day, whether it's been a month or a year, 10 years, it becomes fragile. And it might be we're in a time like a pandemic or the politics around. Sometimes those outside things can affect war, like unfortunately what's happening overseas potentially now. Those are the kind of things that can get in the way of friendship. But just simple conversations sometimes, disagreements, behavioral differences can suddenly become real. Maybe an embarrassment that happens without even realizing it. Sometimes we embarrass one another by saying something, revealing something that wasn't meant to be revealed, and then suddenly, I can never forgive you for that kind of moment. And I think all good relationships at some point are going to hit that, because as we say in Judaism on Yom Kippur, most of the things that we say, please God, forgive us, are things we didn't intend to do. Most of the ways that we get in trouble are because we are just human and we don't realize that we're doing something that's going to offend someone or maybe even break a friendship. And in that moment of rift, it could go of one of two ways. It could break the friendship. Apparently, in at least 20% of friendships, there's a breakup, actually. We don't realize it, but that actually does happen within friendship groups. Or it could strengthen that relationship. Because if you've been through, as Neil Gaiman, he taught me that about Judaism, if once it's a broken thing becomes stronger, not weaker. If it stays together, it stays stronger. So the breaking of the relationship, that fighting, whether it's big or small, forgettable, if you can laugh about it later, that's always good. If you can make it through that moment where you thought maybe it was dead in the water, then you have a real chance of a long-term relationship, friendship that can go on for maybe a lifetime. I'm telling you all that because that's our Torah portion in a nutshell. In the Torah portion, it's a love affair. We're in a honeymoon. We just read about the crossing of the sea. It couldn't be any better. Everything is great. There's miracles happening all around. I think we should think about the miracles like you see in the old Disney movies, like birds flying around. There's that sense of magic. Just like when you have a new friendship, a new relationship, there is kind of beauty and magic in that. And the Torah perfectly captures that moment. Up until, first we have we actually get the Ten Commandments. That's like the marriage ceremony between the Jews and God, right? But then a couple weeks later, we end up in the first fight. What's the first fight? The golden calf. Now, there are some other little fights. We're complaining about water. There wasn't water. God provides water. We make up. There wasn't food. We got some quails. We make up. But this is a fight that's irreparable. That seems irreparable, at least on the surface, right? Moses is up on Mount Sinai waiting to bring the Ten Commandments. It's going to be this great moment. Everyone's excited, except Moses is taking a little too long. And the people are saying, maybe Moses just died up there. We need to, we're kind of in the wilderness. We've been through a lot. Let's celebrate. We'll get Aaron, the high priest, Moses' brother. We'll bring this golden calf. We'll have a great time. And of course they do it. They think they're doing maybe even what God wants. And lo and behold, Moses comes down, and what happens? Crack, right? The Ten Commandments are broken. People are dead all around. This is the worst moment. I mean, can you relate to this? You think you're doing the right thing, and everything is so happy, and like in a second it turns to something bad. If you ever this happened to you in your life, I know it's definitely happened to me, where you had no idea that you made some kind of serious break with someone. And after that moment, it is so raw. You just feel broken inside, right? You don't know, can you ever relate to each other again? Is the friendship gone? Is it together? Will it ever be the same? In families, this is much worse too, because when you reach these points. And it is really scary. Probably the scariest thing that we face as human beings is the breaking of relationships. And in that moment, what do you need? You need reassurance, right? So we're about to look into that moment of reassurance. And I never really understood it that way, but I happened to just go to the library, I just pick up random books. And this is a book by a Christian woman named Rachel Held Evans. I don't know if you heard of her. She really just a big believer, and she believed in kind of a Christianity that could fight for the poor and be accepting of GLBTQ. She believed, and she's from the South, and she just extremely passionate. Unfortunately, she got cancer and she died about 3 years ago at this point. She was just in her late 30s, and it was just terrible tragedy. And actually, this book was supposed to be her book. She was writing the book, and her husband and this other writer who was her friend, Jeff Chu, wrote this for her. What a beautiful love message. I mean, it's amazing. They took this woman who was such a powerhouse, and they wanted to do something in her memory, and they wrote the book that she was intending. And it's about finding love. I picked up this book, and I finally understood the strangest moment in all of Torah, which is when Moses says, I want to see your face, God. Why won't you show me your face? Haven't I done all this? It's so weird. Like, why does Moses need to see God's face? But it turns out there was just this huge argument. Moses doesn't know what to do. Moses is in that place of brokenness, not understanding how to repair the relationship. And Moses does what human beings want to do, which is to kiss and make up, to have some type of way, a physicality. He really wants a physical, like a hug. To make that. And picking up her book, which is not about this at all. It's not about this specific portion. It's about her relationship with Jesus and the different connections there. But I just want to read a couple of passages here. And I hope, I'm going to invite Harvey to go down there, and we're going to read the little section from the Torah with the 13 attributes, one that we go back to all the time, even if we don't understand it. So this is what she writes. From the moment human beings could speak of the mystery we call God, we have spoken in terms of total devotion, or at least the possibility of it. Heart and mind, body and soul, love that envelops the entire self. No holding back, no fear. And she writes this beautiful prayer that I'm going to read. It's based on Psalm 119, verse 145, that says, Answer me, O Lord, with a whole heart. With a whole heart I cry. With my whole heart I cry out to you, God, with all my sadness, with all my anger, with all my fear that I have not done enough and therefore am not enough, with all my residual shame about my childhood eczema, with all my longing to be seen for who I am and who I want to be, with all my respect and honor for my parents, with all my indignation at leaders who misuse their power, with all my absurd delight at 30 Rock. Remember, this is 3 years ago. With all my frustration at gun policies that don't change, with all my annoyance at the people who accuse me of getting political and who say they liked me better when I wasn't, with all my doubts that praying does anything, with all my praise for the gift of sisterhood, for the gift of Amanda, with all my fury at those who subjugate others because of their gender, their sexuality, their ethnicity, or their nationality, with all my mixed feelings about Twitter, with all my love for Dan, for my son, for my daughter, with all my confused emotions about Paw Patrol, with all my complicated gratitude for the churches of my upbringing and for white American evangelicism, with all my disgust for the arrogance of American exceptionalism, with all my pettiness about poorly written biographies of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, with all my affectionate snark it is expressed in text messages to my friends, with all my worries that I might have gotten it all wrong, with all my thanks for dark chocolate and Cheez-Its, with all my concerns about which aspects of scriptures I might have misunderstood or misread, with all my hope for the healing of the world, with my whole heart I cry. That's all I can do. Now answer me, O God, and let me rest in your goodness, for you have made a home within us. What a beautiful message that she never got to share, but that was shared posthumously with the world. So I'm going to invite, we're going to do the opening of the Torah, right? So we haven't done that in a little while, and I know how much Harvey loves that. So page 364, and then we're going to challenge Harvey to go all the way down there to the Torah itself to actually read, and we'll rise when we get to that point. Actually, let's rise now, page 364.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai mirushalayim.
366.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato.
And we'll sing responsively in the middle of the page.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Ladonai iti uneromema Shemo Yachdav. So I'm going to invite everyone, you may be seated. We're going to turn Harvey over here to the Torah.
I'll announce the page.
Well, you don't actually, it's in our prayer book, page 496. That's probably the easiest way to look at it.
Part of it will be in the prayer book.
Yeah, the important part. So Harvey's going to go down here, and one of the fun things, a little bit Torah trivia, there's about 100 letters that are misshaped, either bigger or smaller in the Torah. And this is one of them. So it's the way that you can find this little section, as Harvey said. You look for the enlarged nun. So this section with it, actually it's the word in the beginning of the third, if you see on page 496, the second set notes here is enlarged, and that is how you find that little section. So this is, we imagine God is going before God and giving Moses and all of us a hug, or really repairing the relationship that's been broken. And we'll say the Aliyah together. Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach, Baruch Adonai hamborach leolam vahed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah. And let's rise for this part.
I'm actually starting a few verses before what you have in front of you. If you want to look in the Pentateuch, in the Hertz Chumash, this is the end of the 5th Aliyah of Ki Tisa. I've got the page number.
And Harvey, just lift up the mic a little bit for yourself too.
It's on page 364 in the Hertz Chumash, and I'll be reading verses 5 through 9.
And when you get to the point, so if you just hold on to 496, you'll hear it when he gets to the Adonai Adonai section.
I'm going to start with the melody that's used in the Yom Kippur liturgy. And then, of course, when I get to the part that the liturgy skips, I'll switch to the Torah. But here's the way the liturgy is sung on Yom Kippur. Vayered Adonai be'anan, vayityatzeh imo sham, vayikra b'shem Adonai, vayavor Adonai al panav, vayikra Adonai, Adonai, el rachum v'chanun, erech apayim, v'rav chesed, v'rav chesed, v'emet. Notzer chesed la'alafim, nosei avon va'afesha. Notzer chesed la'alafim, nosei avon va'afesha, v'chata'a v'nakei. Now the liturgy continues with 4 lines skipped. V'salachta la'avonenu v'chatotenu u'nechaltanu. But these 4 lines are kind of harsh, and this is what's in the Torah. V'nakei lo yinakeh poked avon avot al banim ve'al b'nei banim al shileshim ve'al ribeim vayimaher Moshe vayikod arza vayishtachu vayomer imna matzati chen be'einecha Adonai Yelech na Adonai v'kirbenu ki am kishe oref hu v'salachta la'avonenu u'lechatatenu u'nechaltanu.
And let's read together on 496, the English there in the middle. Adonai, Adonai, a God compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, sin, and granting pardon. Page 498, we'll do the last blessing at the bottom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Misha berach Avotenu Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Yimatenu Sarah, Kerechev, Leah, Meho, the Holy One who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Grant us healing and hope that when our relationships are broken, that we can fix and repair them. Let us be strong enough to be with one another, even in those dark times, so that we can be together in light times. May this place, this sanctuary we call Congregation Shir Shalom, continue to be a place where friendships are formed and strengthened and bonds that last generations are able to be extended And may we all have health and happiness and say Amen. Yeshakoach, Harvey, you may be seated. So just a coda to what I was saying. Harvey mentioned that in the Torah, God is a little harsher. Basically, this is God saying, Moses, you're forgiven. Don't worry. What happened with the golden calf, we'll let that be in the past. But of course, in the Torah, God is still angry. And as you know, in those moments where you're in those tense moments, sometimes you don't always say the things that you want to say. So God was a little harsher, and in the end says, I'm going to punish you up to 4 generations if you ever do this again, basically. And the interesting thing is, in our liturgy, we just get rid of that part. And I think that that's true of relationships, that when we have brokenness, even if we've said things that are a little harsher than we wanted to, we know that God didn't really intend that. We want a relationship. And so we just don't tell that part of the story, basically. So I think that also helped me explain. So I thank Rachel Held Evans for doing that for me. We're going to rise now for Aleinu. And that is on page 586. V'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim livnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 591. Emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Vayomahu Yeh Adonai Echad Shemo Ushemo Echad. You may be seated. We turn to our Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. We had a really very difficult loss this week. 39-year-old Eric Duval was a writer for the Buffalo News, which he had aspired to his whole life, and just became a writer this past summer. And unfortunately had a heart attack when he was alone in his home and died very suddenly. At his funeral, it was quite amazing to see how many people he brought together. And I feel for his brother who lives out in LA and his mother here. He's a sweet home. I think there's a connection there to Bruce. So they all went to Sweet Home, and just a real sad loss. Thankfully, we don't have too many like that, but may his memory be for a blessing. We're also remembering Lee Applebaum, Bob Davis, Herbert Falk, Milton Freudenheim, Thomas Gordon, Sylvia Hirschfield, Romaine Levine, Diane Lynch, Mary Jo Santella, Carol Sirota, and Howard Smolin, who died in the last month. There will be a memorial service for Thomas Gordon a week from Monday here at Shir Shalom at 7 o'clock. And if you knew the family, please come. Obviously, masks required. On our yard site list from years past, we remember Rosalind Barth, Robert Bass, Julius Berger, William Berger, Sarah Berman, Mary Jo Billick, Renee P. Bongiorno, Donald Campbell, Meredith Cartman, Betty Eisen, Maxwell Ellis, Beverly Engel, Samuel Falk, Laura Feldman, Aaron Fine, Marvin Fox, Hubert A. Gersman, Morris Glazer, Joseph Goldberg, Barbara Heyman, David Jacobs, Aaron Klein, Richard Nightinger, Ruth Kraus, Bella Kremer, James Lackner, Sarah Lavau, Shalom Levy, Edith H. Liebenskind, Ida Lippman, Marjorie Longberg, Rebecca Margulis, Frank Massimo, Ralph Morris, Cecilia Mossman, Roma Beth Olin, Evelyn Perlmutter, Clara Picker, Ray Pleskin, Henry Pohl, Judith Polikoff, Jack Sachs, Jules Saltman, Pamela Shunk, Eric Sellers, Sophie S. Small, Lois Tansky, Arnold Tarner, Pessa Leah Weiss, and Joseph Wall. If there's other names that you'd like to mention, just raise your hand. All those whose custom it is to rise, page 598. And we'll say it together. Yit Gadol, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma, Divrach, Hiratei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayachon, V'yamachon, V'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav Yizman, Kariv, Yimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, Le'olam Olei Amayah. Yitbarak, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei D'Kudashah, B'rechu. Le'elam in kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'yalma v'yimru, Amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya says shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony and high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and we say Amen. Zikranam livracha, may their memories always be for a blessing. You may be seated. As I invite up Bruce Corris to offer our announcements, just letting you know, I did make copies of a love languages test. So if you're interested what your love languages are, I put them on the table in our foyer over there. There's about 10 copies, so feel free if you're curious for yourself.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you to Mark Nightingale. Where's Mark? There you are, over there, for helping out with being a service greeter this evening. Thank you to Rabbi Alex, special guest musical soloist Harvey Horowitz, and Paul Staley. We were a few octaves lower than usual this week. Very nice service tonight, a warm service on a cold night. Whether we're in person or virtual, we are always together. Speaking of virtual, we will have Torah study tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Shabbat morning service, and the Kiddush luncheon at 11. Those are all virtual. That's all via Zoom. Go to the website for the Zoom links. The community religious school is on its February break for the next 2 Sundays. However, Sunday morning, the men's group returns. First speaker this year, first speaker in quite a while, actually. We will have Ken Weinstein at 9:30 via Zoom speaking about the tax changes. He makes taxes interesting. The man loves taxes. It's an interesting talk. That is at 9:30 Sunday morning via Zoom. Sunday night via Zoom, we have Dr. Yunina Foster leading Shalom Ruach. Session will include song, chant, sharing, and meditation. This is coming up really, really soon. The 10th anniversary Purim Spiel is on Wednesday, March 16th, 7 o'clock p.m. It is a live stream event via Boxcast, Facebook, and YouTube. As of now, it is virtual only for the audience. We'll see what the next couple weeks bring, but as of now, that is a virtual only event. And it's quite a fun show this year. It's kind of a trip down musical memory lane as we take snippets from all of the various spiels that we've done over the past decade and kind of weave them together. It's a lot of fun. Also, just in time for Purim, Hamantashen boxes are coming. You can RSVP for a homemade Hamantashen and a store-bought Grogger by emailing Joanne at joanne.markazy. We should have homemade Groggers. That's a project for next year. joanne.markazy at gmail.com by March 2nd. Then there'll be a drive-through pickup on that Wednesday, the Wednesday of the Purim Spiel, March 16th, from 4 to 5. That is also the night of our Chai Club Grand Prize drawing. 3 big prizes to be given out that night. You can still get tickets, and if you win anything in the next couple of weeks, your tickets still go back in, so you're still eligible for the grand prize drawing. Speaking of things like that, congratulations to our Super Bowl Square winners. And thank you to everyone who participated in that. That was a fundraiser for the community religious school. Of course, Bills fans had no reason to cheer for the Super Bowl this year, but we had a reason to cheer for our Super Bowl squares. And I see Robert's here. He had a winning square this year. So congratulations to our winners. And if you didn't win, blame Joanne. She had nothing to do with it, but blame Joanne. Next Friday, Erev Shabbat service at 7 o'clock p.m. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the service, as of now, we are going under the assumption that we will be in person unless otherwise things come up. We'll be sending out an email on Wednesday just confirming, but plan for now on services being in person. But as I said, we still need reservations. Masks, of course, are still required. And we still, have social distancing here in the sanctuary. We are still taking our safety precautions very, very seriously. But it is nice to be in person, isn't it? And for those of you that are watching on the stream, we certainly understand your reasons for doing so, and we hope that one of these weeks you'll join us as well. The gift shop will continue to be open most Friday nights before services from 6:30 to 7. Thank you to Sue Frank for honchoing that. We will have a Passover sale next month, 20% off Passover stuff. And we are also having a passed over sale where we're just going to clear out everything. So if you see something in the gift shop that you want and it's not marked down, make her an offer. We're clearing it out for new stuff. There's still good stuff in there, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but we want to just get out some of that and bring in all sorts of new stuff. We're going to continue to evaluate all events and protocols on a week-by-week basis. Obviously, as I said, we put your safety first, but we're also aware of your needs, and we want to meet all of your needs however possible. If you need anything at all, please feel free to reach out to the rabbi, the cantor, but not this week because she's on vacation. Joanne, Todd, or myself, we are always here for you. Even if one of us is wintering in Florida, he is still here for you. Just give him a call. Shabbat Shalom. Be sure to grab an onig to go on your way out, and we will be exiting through the rear doors of the social hall. Shabbat Shalom.
Now, I do believe, Paul, is it your birthday? Was that? No, it's coming up soon. Right? Is that what it is? Okay. Is it this week?
It's actually next week.
Next week. Oh, okay. Well, I knew it was coming up in a hurry. We'll make sure to remember that one. We also, I should let everyone know, the Jewish community through the University of Buffalo and our Jewish Federation is doing, I forget what it's called, Jewish Day of Learning. And that is next Sunday. I believe it's at the Jewish Community Center. I'll be doing a panel discussion at 1 o'clock with some area rabbis about how the pandemic has affected Judaism and the future of Judaism, which will be very nice. And at the very same time, we have a Buffalo Corner reading series that's also, I believe, in person. But if you haven't seen it, all the information should be maybe on the Federation calendar. We'll try to send it out as well. But just should be, it's our very first one, and there's going to be a lot of great programming there. Okay, I think that we're ready for Adon Olam, page 625.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hoveh, V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Li'et
Nasa,
V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Echad, V'ein Sheni, Lehamshilo lehachbira Adon Olam, Beli Reshit, Beli Tachlit, Velo ha'oz ve'hamisra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach.
V'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol.
Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa,
Li'et Nasa.
V'chefto Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'chai Go Ali, V'tzur Chevli B'yetzara Adon Olam, V'hu Nisi, Umanos Li, Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach, B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol.
Yitzir Nivra, Li'et
Li'et
Nasa,
Nasa.
V'chefto Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, B'yado Afkid Ruchi, Be'et Ishan Ve'a'ira Adon Olam, Ve'im Ruchi Giviyati, Adonai li velo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam.
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach.
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol.
Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa,
Li'et Nasa.
V'chefto Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
Well, Harvey, you've done such a stupendous job. I think you deserve a challah. Why don't you go down and take your prize over there? Just be careful. And as Harvey lifts up our challah there, we have to, because we're in an age where it's harder to distribute things like that. We'll say the Hamotzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. May you please return your prayer books with the leaflet outside of it to the front over there, and we're going to exit at the back. Please be very careful on the parking lot. It is quite a bit icy. Shabbat Shalom.
Enjoy your challah. Make good for Shabbat. Oh, yeah.
I hear you.
You know, you're talking about Lake Temple as a place to make friends. I have nice job back in rejoining this now. I've always obviously reconnected with many friends from when I was younger.
Yeah.
Joe Blickman is my oldest friend.
That's incredible.
We've been friends since I was 6 and he was 5.
I think you're much, if you make a good friend, then, it's
Yeah.
like they stay with you longer.
And then,
You're more open to new friendships at that time.
but I think of the friends I made, the new friends I made since joining, and you can't imagine your life without them.
Yeah, I think synagogues are great places to make friends because they're open. There's you never know who's going to be here.
Yeah.
There's a wide variety.
Yo.
Well done.
Thank you. Great service.